Hello. We're recording a series of videos on the cultural aspects of working with GCCs in India. And today we're going to be focusing on an issue that comes up a lot when we discuss with our clients, and that's the perceived trust gaps that you get between the headquarters teams and the India teams in the GCCs. I'm Keith Warburton. I'm the CEO of Global Business Culture, and I'm joined again by my colleague Navkaran Singh, who's a senior consultant here at Global Business Culture. So now, just to start with, lots of our clients talk to us about these perceived trust gaps that you have between the different parties in the GCC relationship. Why might that trust gap develop? Why might trust be difficult to develop over this process?
And yeah, thanks for having me, Keith, by the way. And I think this is probably one of the key, if not the key, one of the top three issues that we see between the HQ, which is usually the Western teams, and the GCCs, which are normally in India. And I think in addition to the physical distance, the technology, the fact they're virtual, the fact that there's a time zone gap, I think there is a cultural foundation where trust is seen very different, especially in the corporate world. In India, all my colleagues are by default also my friends, right? You spend time getting to know people, you build personal connections. Trust has to be built. Trust is not there at the start, right? Even in the professional world. So I need to know you on a personal level before the professional relationship even begins, right? So trust has to be built. But in the Western context, my loyalty is to my role. People have clear roles and responsibility. Just because we are colleagues doesn't necessarily mean we have to be friends. We are comfortable working with each other without getting to know each other on a personal level. In many cases, that's preferred, which means that trust is given. I'll trust you if you say you're going to do something, I trust that. In India, if you say you're going to do something, that really depends on our relationship. How long have we known each other, the hierarchy, the roles, and so on. So there's so much cultural context where how trust is built and perceived and managed. It differs really in the West, especially in the West, in Western Europe, in Northern Europe, in the US, and India. And I think that's where we see trust gap. It becomes bigger and bigger and wider over time.
And it's not just a trust gap there; it's a knowledge gap because people are not aware of these intrinsic differences in thought process around what trust is. So that's a basic cultural aspect of issues around trust. But do you think that the fact that these teams are a long distance away from each other, it's very difficult to have any informal interactions between the teams? Do you think that has a part to play in this?
Yeah, I mean, it's not only between the West and the GCCs. I think that we see now a lot of the teams are working from home. There's virtual teams, and it's also more difficult to build the trust between them. So that is there. You're already starting in an environment where it's very difficult with different time zones. Technology can get in the way, but I think that exaggerates what I was talking about. That people don't have that many avenues to build trust, get to know each other. Um, in the Indian professional context, relationship precedes trust. So things that we do outside the meeting, the the discussion we have on the coffee, uh, the discussion we have after a very heated meeting. This is where you solve issues. This is where you share empathy. This is where you maybe even make decisions. All of these things, I think, with teams being physically apart, I think that really causes issue. And what we see, over time is that where it started as a HQ GCC team together, over time it starts becoming us versus them, right?
Yeah,
You know,
and
it,
that's where I think language possibly plays a part as well.
Definitely. I think we sometimes make people realize when the clients come to saying, but we are doing that, they are doing that, and then we try to remind them, but isn't it we together all across? And I
Yeah.
think this is also a kind of a light bulb moment for them that over these years, the 2 years, 3 years, they have issues. They've gone from us across the Western India to now us in India versus the West, or what us in West versus India. And I think that shows you the language, these subtle things can have a huge influence, especially in the virtual teams, kind of how people perceive trust and what is a trust level across these teams.
Absolutely. I think that can result in the GCC teams feeling that they're just an outsourced resource
Yeah.
rather than actually being part of the whole wider team. So, are there any leadership behaviours that people can adopt to try and help reduce this trust gap?
I think leaders probably play the most important role. They probably are the key to building the level of trust you want to build across your HQ and GCC teams. And I think one of the, probably not the easiest thing, but one of the most effective things we've seen is get on a plane and go see your team in GCC in India. We've seen the trust that the trust that you talk about built in 2 days of someone going from the US to their team in Bangalore that they couldn't do in the 2 years before because they thought putting the right processes, putting the right policies, putting the right technology is enough, right? And they could not explain it. They were saying, no, I don't know what happened. I was there for 2 days. I went back and suddenly communication is open, the ownership, the escalate, everything is working fine. I don't know what I did. I should go more often. I said, because that shows you're interested in the team. That builds the trust. You're building the relationship. You're getting to know the team on a personal level. So I think, a very simple but very, very effective thing is please go see your team in India. And I think, if you can't go to India, the other quick thing I would say is appreciate your team, give more positive feedback. The directness, the transparency, the honesty that we value so much in the West is comes across as rude and impersonal and almost personal attack and letting my team in front of everyone. So, when it comes to feedback, constructive feedback, don't give in public. Yeah. Put the relationship first, give it one to one. But on the other hand, give a lot more positive appreciation. When people speak up, tell, now, well done. When people escalate, yes, thank you very much for flagging that. I think these are subtle, simple things that if you do enough over time, if you repeat them, we've seen teams really, transforming and really becoming one, and obviously you're building the trust that needs to be there across the two sides. So leadership, I think, plays a very, very crucial role.
I agree. I agree. So, um, thanks very much for your input there, Nav. And everybody who's watching this, I hope you found this useful. We are doing a series of these, so please look out for the next ones. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Keith. Speak soon.